20 years from now, I'll start with you, India or China, what'll be the most successful economic model?
I think it's going to be a close race, and I'm glad you raised this because I wanted to get away from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Iran, the usual suspects. The most powerful political force that the next president's going to have to deal with, in my judgment, is not going to arise from these kinds of crises. Every war will end. These will be resolved one way or the other. It's what's happening in the international economic situation. We are living in the greatest period of wealth creation that the world has ever seen. And as I travel around, I see these nations that have come out from behind the Iron Curtain, those that have come out from behind the bamboo curtain, China, India from behind the Soviet curtain that it used to be behind. And they're all creating wealth. And they're creating that wealth in a way that demands more and more energy to sustain that wealth. And they also understand, these countries, that to sustain that growth, they need to educate their young people because they have to keep moving up the economic ladder. And so I am seeing a world out there that has these kinds of crises. But it's also a world where America does not have the kind of existential threat against our very survival that we had for the past 100 years. The Soviet Union's not coming back, no matter what you think of Putin. He's making too much money, selling oil and having a good time with us. Now, he's also 85% popularity, so be a little careful how you lecture Vladimir Putin. In China, they are not going to...
Wait, so you wouldn't kick him out of the G8 the way Senator McCain has proposed?
No, I would not.
Okay.
Nor is it our position. We don't kick people out. Yeah. We don't have the authority to kick somebody out of the G8 and not bring in China or India in. It doesn't. I don't quite get that. China, they have a strategy that's very clear. 4 parts. 1, keep selling to us and the rest of the world. 2, keep getting investment. 3, develop a middle class that'll start to consume their own products. And 4th, we've got 700 to 800 million peasant farmers that are going nowhere. We got to get them off the farms. We've got to create new cities. We have got to create an infrastructure for those new cities, industries for those new cities, and then we have to educate these people in order to be contributing members in an industrialized society. And that means more energy, but it means an investment in education. And then it goes to the heart of what Tom Friedman and others have been talking about. What is this going to do to our environment? What is it going to do to global warming? And so the energy problem is not going to be driven by speculators. It's going to be driven by massive demand coming up. And it's going to take the kind of massive changes that Tom is talking about for us to start dealing with this problem. But on balance, when you look at it, America is not facing an existential threat to its existence any longer. Mm-hmm. In fact, there is no country out there who can present such a threat to us. And so what we have to remember is, as we deal with the crises in Iraq and Afghanistan and Iran, and as we find a diplomatic solution to North Korea, and as we eventually find a diplomatic solution to Iran, America has a lot going for it. And I always like to tell the people I speak to, don't get so wrapped up in these, as Clausewitz called them, the immediacy of transient impressions, that you overlook what we have accomplished and the greatness that still is America and that lies ahead for America.
Bravo, that's a good July 4th message. Let me wrap it up with 2 quick political questions, if I may. Senator, I hope you didn't really take yourself out of the running for vice president by lifting the Cuban embargo, because I do think you would be the best running mate for Senator Obama. And I remember a great line by Senator Moynihan when they asked him if he wanted to be president. He said, no, vice president, you get a really big house, intersection control, and you can take the afternoons off. So I'm going to ask it this way. Just between us, I mean, we won't tell anybody, would you actually like to be vice president?
It depends on whether it's the John Nance Garner model or the Dick Cheney model.
Which would you prefer of the 2?
Well, Garner did what he wanted. He treated it as an independent office, and the president couldn't even get him to come back from Texas. But anyway, seriously, great honor to be mentioned. I think the odds are very much against it being an offer, and I would have to think very seriously about it. As I'm sure Colin Powell could tell you, it depends on what the president wants. It depends on what he wants you to do in terms of vice president or some other high position. And it also depends on who the team is. I think the team around the president is very important, right, Colin?
Yes.
And for you, General Powell.
Let me say one other. Can I say one other thing? I think this is about bipartisanship, I know, but I think that we in the Cold War we knew what our vital interests were, but I think we've lost track of what our vital interests are now. And if we really just follow the media, they do their job, but they basically follow the vivid types of interests. They don't follow the vital. We've got to have a national discussion about what our vital interests are. I certainly think Tom Friedman makes an overwhelming case that energy and environment are right really at the top of it. And by the way, Tom, I am for a system of clean energy. I want to let you know that. But I also think the weapons of mass destruction, making sure that none of the material gets in the hands of terrorists, I think that's a vital interest. I think the environment is, and I think on energy and environment, we have to add water and food to any economic model. Both of those are being affected in huge ways by the energy situation and environmental. But we need a discussion about what our national interests are. Now, when we get through discussing those, I think we're going to discover that most of the things we consider vital require Russia to work with us and also require China to work with us. Neither one of them are democracies. But we have to go back during the Cold War. Did we have all democracies working with us on these major problems? No. Look at NATO. We had at least 4 countries in NATO that were non-democracies. We're all for democracies, but I think we've got to get in a frame of mind that we understand people are going to watch what we do as a model much more than us preaching to them about where they should go. I think the world has had I think the world's had about all the preaching from America they want right now, and I think we've got to show by example in so many dimensions, and Tom had one of the leading ones there.